Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. Today we'll be talking about finding a new life. I think so many people have thought about it and been uncomfortable with their current situation. They're not sure what to do about it. I'm talking to Gabriella. She is a mother and a wife, and she decided to move her family from the US to the Caribbeans. And I'll be asking her why she decided to make that difficult decision of finding a new life and how she found the courage to take on that decision, especially when you have kids. It's not easy because then you have to start a totally new life. Gabriella was a Chicago native, as I should say, copywriter, author, and educator. She now lives on the island of Antigua in the Caribbean West Indies with her husband and 3 young kids. Her book, A 40-Day Guide to Living Faithfully, Intentionally, and Tremendously, is out there. I can't wait for you to all talk to her and listen to her as she shares her own story about and finding a new life. Let's meet Gabriella. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. As I said in my introduction, I'm talking to someone who's taken on that brave challenge, overcoming that pain to move. And a lot of us have all thought about it. I know several times probably I thought about moving and changing location, but she didn't just think about it, she did it. Let's meet Gabriella and understand how she made that initial decision and why she did it. Hi, Gabriella, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
I am super delighted that you took the time out to speak to us because I understand that you made a big decision to move. But before we get into all of that, can you just tell us a little bit about who are you?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a mom. I'm a mom to 3 amazing kids, and I'm a wife. And I'm just an everyday woman. I mean, I'm a copywriter. So I'm a copywriter. I'm an educator. I have an elementary education degree. And so I incorporate that into my copywriting business as an entrepreneur. But I'm pretty much just a basic woman from Chicago who wanted to do something different with, her life and change the trajectory for my family's life. But otherwise, I'm pretty basic.
And where are you joining us from? Where are you calling from?
We are currently located on the island of Antigua in the Caribbean West Indies.
Oh, lovely. How beautiful that is. I mean, everyone would love to be on the island right now, just enjoying the, sunshine. And I mean, Chicago will be very cold at this time. So you must be really enjoying this. So you decided to take on this new life. But before we go, why did you decide? What was your life like in the US? How could you tell us a little bit about your life growing up in the United States in Chicago?
Well, I mean, I grew up, my growing up was pretty, again, basic. It was my mom and I, she was a single mom, and then me. And, went to public schools all the way through graduate school, actually. And met my husband when we were in undergrad and moved away to go to Los Angeles for 2 years for graduate school. But before we moved to Mexico, we were in Mexico first. Now we're here on Antigua. We were living in Chicago very much, everyday kind of stuff, running to jobs, spending hours in traffic in the commute to get to a job, spending hours at the job, sometimes at the job and just wishing you were doing something else. I think that's kind of how a lot of us feel sometimes. And, not really having a lot of time to spend with my family, seeing my kids were so small, and really just feeling like, you miss their first steps, you miss little things. They're in daycare and they send you pictures and you're like, oh, I didn't know he could do that. And you feel bad that you've missed it. And although I was really grateful, we had a beautiful home, we had a beautiful life, and I was grateful for it, it just felt like there was kind of something missing. And, we talked about moving abroad for quite some time. And there was a time when it was time to do it. So.
And I think in everyone's life, there's always that time when you realize that, okay, if I don't do it, it's never going to happen. We're just going to keep talking about it and it will never happen. And you also said in one of your interviews, you decided to make that move because nothing, including tomorrow, is guaranteed. If we wanted to experience happiness, we need to take that action. What made you make that quote about nothing, including tomorrow, is guaranteed? Did something in your life happen that you said you realized that, okay, nothing is guaranteed? If we don't do it now, it's never going to happen?
Oh, yes. So my mother actually was living in Mexico, and she, I talked to her on a Monday, and the next thing I knew, we had plans to talk on Wednesday in the evening, and my sister called me and told me that she had passed away. And it was just kind of out of the blue. It was very much an out of the blue thing. We knew she was not doing super great in terms of her health, but that was not at all anything that we had expected would happen. And so when I received that call, and we had to immediately make arrangements so my husband and I could jump on a red-eye flight to get to Mexico and have people come to our house. My mother-in-law actually flew from Los Angeles to take care of my children in Chicago so we could go to Mexico. While we were doing all the arrangements that you have to do, we really talked about it. And it's like, this is something we've been talking about it since 2009. We were married in Mexico in 2009, said to one another, we should move abroad someday. It would be great to be with my parents. It would be great to live in, this beautiful place, experience something new. But 7 years had passed at that point, and we hadn't done it. We fell into, the kind of the traditional role of working, careers, building this, building that, family, house, cars, all that. And, when she passed away, it's like, wow, we've, kind of missed the opportunity to enjoy this with her. But my dad was still there. My sister's still there. And it was like, it was kind of one of those moments you realize it's like, we think we have all this time, and God willing, we do have all this time, but at the same time, we really don't when you really think about it. And we just kind of kept pushing it off. And when she passed away, so what felt suddenly, it was like, we have to do this. We can't just keep saying we want to do it. If we don't do it, we won't. And it will be something we've forever not been able to do. So that was definitely kind of that tipping point for us.
Okay, wow, that is really touching that your mom just passed away just so sudden like that. But at the same time, I'm glad that it gave you some vision to see that if you're going to do something, make that mind and just do it. And I'm glad you took on that step. Everyone will be wondering, some people listening might ask themselves, oh, I'm thinking of doing moving, but the biggest fear I have right now is, how do I make that move? How do I make that leap, that jump to just gather myself, sell my house or whatever I do at my house, give it up or keep it, rent it? How did you make that? Tell me about that jump from moving from Chicago to where you are right now.
So I like to think of it kind of in two pieces. There's the theory, and then there's the practicality. And the theory piece is the hardest, right? The theory piece is where we have to get over that fear. We have to get over that concern about the unknown, where we have to kind of transition from what if this goes wrong to, wow, what could happen? What could go right? And I very much believe, fear has a definite place in our lives. It keeps us safe, especially as women. We have that intrinsic, when we're out and we see someone or we see something happening, we have that intrinsic fear that kind of keeps us safe. It keeps us from venturing down that. I'm not going to walk down that alley. I'm going to, go this way. I'm not going to get in that cab, or I'm not going to go on a date with that man, whatever it might be. We have that intrinsic kind of fear that keeps us safe. But we can't let that fear drive our life. We have to kind of keep it in check, maybe in the passenger seat, maybe in the back seat. Because if something's been on your heart for a long time, especially with us, it had been 7 years, if something keeps kind of circling back, it's on your heart, whether it's God putting it there, universe, spirit, whomever, you believe in, something keeps putting it on your heart for a reason. And you really do have to sometimes just go with it and lean into it, because there's a reason for it. There's a ripple effect. There's a domino effect that comes from you making this decision that's kind of been in the back of your mind, on your heart, pressing on you for time. And so, with due diligence, your research and things like that, you do need to move forward. On the practical end, obviously doing research, having the internet is amazing. You can Google pretty much anything. There are Facebook groups for pretty much anything. There are blogs and vlogs and guides for pretty much anything. So anywhere that you want to go in the world, you can really get an in-depth view of what living in that place is like, learn the cost of living, learn, like the exchange rate, your currency to their currency, learn what the visa requirements are. Are you allowed to stay there long? Can you get a job? Can you work? Is it a great place for kids? Is it not? Are you single? Will you meet a man or a woman there that you can fall in love with? All those things. And then we literally just started selling stuff, like we sold our cars, we sold furniture, we sold our house. I mean, you just kind of start downsizing. You start, there's tons of ways to declutter your house. You start decluttering, deciding what you need to keep, what you can give away to maybe charity, what you just need to throw in the trash bin, because plenty of us have things in the house. And why am I holding on to this stuff? Why is this? It's broken. It's never going to be fixed. Why do I have it? So there's kind of like like I said, like the theory of getting over yourself, really getting out of your own way. And then, the practicality of, doing due diligence, even taking a reconnaissance trip, going to the place. We did that ourselves, even though we've been visiting Mazatlan for many years, we did a reconnaissance trip and tried to live like a local and see, like, how does this feel for us? How do we feel, if we had to walk down the street at night? How do we feel if we had to buy groceries? Because a lot of people travel and stay on a resort and don't really experience what the place is like. And they're two vastly different experiences. So I don't know if hopefully that's helpful. It's kind of two different.
No, I love what you said there about living like the locals, because it's true. When you go on holiday, you stay in the resort, you only go to certain restaurants, you don't really even go to other restaurants, you only go to certain restaurants that are recommended by the concierge at the hotels. So you're not really in tune with what the real reality is. If something does go wrong, is it safe? Can I actually live here? And what I've seen in this little bubble does not really show me much. It shows me the good side of it, but it doesn't show you the other side of it. And I think what you've just done is really a good checklist for anyone who's listening to understand, yes, you can do this, but make sure you do your own due diligence to understand the basic necessity about a place. Is it adaptable? Are you willing to adapt yourself as well to their culture? Because you can't go there with your own attitude. You have to also embrace them as well. So yeah, I'm so glad you checked on those lists. When you got there and when you finally got to the West and the Caribbeans, and you have your beautiful young kids, was it hard getting the school that you felt was needed for the right school? Because obviously, in a good school in America, they have very good schools. So was it easy finding good schools for the kids out there?
So we had quite a bit of choice. When we were in Mazatlan, we had quite a bit of choice. It's a big city and there's a lot of schools. So we were able to choose our school. When we moved here to Antigua, it's a small island and there's very few schools. And ironically, many of the schools actually have wait lists from when babies are born. So the moms, they know exactly, they've grown up here, so they want their kids to go to their alma mater, or, they're in a certain area and they want to have a good commute. So as soon as baby, I've heard stories of husbands leaving the hospital, running to the school to turn in the application to make sure they get on the waiting list for 5 years later when they're ready to enter into kindergarten. So we definitely had some limitations in our choices here, but we ended up at a really great school where our kids are really flourishing. There are definitely some differences in terms of the learning styles from what I'm used to as an educator and, seeing schools in the US to here on Antigua. But in terms of, the level of academic rigor, the expectation, preparing the children to, be what I like to call, like world citizens. They're definitely getting, the reading, writing, arithmetic that should be expected. And actually, many of the schools, including our school, incorporates a lot of the UK learning modules into, it's kind of infused between, Antiguan education with like UK education. So it's funny because they're saying words that I don't necessarily say, and they're asking me for things, and the way we structure our sentences, sometimes they're wanting to structure it this way. And I'm like, no, that's not, like, my teacher said. I was like, okay, if teacher said, then it's okay, because I want to say it in American English. And so, but yeah, we're very pleased with, the school options here for our kids. Very safe and very loving environment.
I like what you did. And when you talked about the budgeting, you went into details. You were like, private school, this amount, four-bedroom house, this amount, grocery, this amount, transport and leisure activity. And you said your cost of living has gone down substantially since you've moved out to the Caribbeans. Can you just explain that in terms of comparison between USA and where you are, Caribbean right now, Tika?
Definitely. So I want to put it like this. There are some things that are just almost as expensive. So because we're on an island, a lot of the food items are imported. And so grocery shopping, unless you are shopping very local and you're shopping like the local farmers markets or some of the local fruit stands, if you're going into a standard grocery store, you may wind up spending equitable, maybe even a little bit more for some of the items that you could normally pick up at, the grocery store in the States. But in terms of the house we're living in, we would not be able to necessarily afford the type of house. I mean, you can see the pool maybe back here, but the type of house that we are, it's in front of me, but it's back here. The type of house that we're living in currently, in the neighborhood that we're living in currently, we would not be able to afford, in the US. We're paying considerably less for rent. We pay considerably less for other things. Even, we were able to purchase a used car that was much less expensive than had we purchased it in the US. Little things, day-to-day things, their swimming lessons, their school tuition, those types of things are significantly less than what we were spending in the US. And so it does wind up kind of balancing out with some of the, the imported groceries. And also, one really kind of wonderful benefit that's come is we don't have Target here, and I don't know if you have Target there, but Target
formats we have and Asda. So Asda is the brand of what? Yeah, we do have it. We have it here in the UK, United Kingdom, but it's not called Walmart, but it's called Asda.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I know, there was always those, you go in for, laundry detergent and milk, and you come out and the next thing you know, your shopping cart is full of hundreds of dollars of what did I buy? Yeah. And, here we don't have as many of those types of stores. And so you go for groceries and maybe you buy a chocolate bar or something, but you don't buy hundreds of dollars of extra stuff. So even just little things like that has been really helpful in terms of, keeping our budget, much more in check. In terms of saving money.
No, that is really true. I've stopped going to supermarket because of it, because I'm like, every time I do go, I come back with something else that I never wanted just because I saw it there. The opportunity presents itself to put it in the basket. I'm like, oh, I need this. Why did I forget? So it's that lack of because of this, it's in your face. There's nothing you could do about it. You just have to grab it. So I really agree with you there. But one key thing you do say about the benefits, not just the cost benefit you're seeing there. You're saying you're feeling safe in your new environment, feeling safe around policing, around the policemen and everything, compared to what you felt when you were in the United States. And I think there's been this major issue. We've seen the whole news about policemen in the United States. We're not saying they're bad. We have a wonderful good policemen in the United States, but we've seen some of the negative stories. But in where you are now, you feel a little bit more safer. Can you explain that?
Definitely. And as you say, in the United States, there are some very wonderful police officers. We actually have friends and family who are police officers, and they're wonderful at their jobs. And I mean no disrespect in any way. However, like you said, there are some who are not maybe on the up and up. And here, both in Mexico and here on Antigua, at least for us, and again, as I mentioned kind of in the article, things are definitely different if you are a local. Things are definitely different if you're, people are people everywhere in the world, right? So there's, great cops and there's cops who maybe aren't doing exactly what they could and should be doing. But for us personally, we've definitely experienced we've had much kinder interactions with police officers, especially here on Antigua. Every police officer that I've personally encountered has been very helpful, very mindful, very friendly, welcoming. Definitely, I'm strong and I'm here to protect. It's more of a sense of to serve and protect, like we like to say, that's kind of something in the United States, to serve and to protect. And I definitely feel that way here on Antigua more so than we did in the US. I mean, even simple things in the US. We were considering buying a car, and there was a car that I really wanted, and I thought it would be great for, we got a growing family. And my husband was like, absolutely not, because it was too flashy. And he was concerned, that I might be able to get away with driving and talk my way out of it because, I'm a girl and I'm cute and I'm friendly. But my husband is seen as a threat, and a threat inside of a fancy car doesn't bode well for him. And so, even like little things like that, we feel like we don't have to think about that as much anymore. Whereas in the United States, that was definitely something we had to encounter, and, kind of, it was a reality for us on a daily basis. So, and it takes a lot of pressure off. Like when you can get in your car and drive somewhere, you can sit out at a restaurant or on a beach or walk down the street and not feel like you're being eyed. You're being instead watched to make sure you're safe versus being, what bad thing are you going to do? And so that's a feeling of relief for, I'm sure more so probably for my husband than for me, but also for our boys. We have 2 young boys that will become large Black men someday, so.
And it's really true, because I think as mothers, we always worry about that then, because we always worry about, is my son going to be next? If all this things happen in media, you could just hear about it, but one day you could be one part of that statistics, and you always hope that you don't. And I'm so glad that you're in a place where you feel more comfortable. Is it safe? You've lived there now for, how long have you been living there for now?
We've been here for 2.5 years now.
Wow. So in your staying there, what would you say has been your best decision so far of making this big move?
I think the best decision has honestly been the ability to slow down and really enjoy life. I feel like when we were in Chicago, we were, as I kind of mentioned in the article a bit, we were struggling to make ends meet. We were really trying kind of everything that we could do to what we like to say, kind of keep up with the Joneses, have the nice, and that was also partly on us too, but it's also the culture that, the United States tends to breed as a society, kind of this materialistic, looking like you got the stuff and having the stuff and wanting to have the stuff because everybody else around you has the stuff. It's kind of, we've all kind of bought into this mindset of stuff, and here on Antigua, there definitely is not so much of that feeling of materialism. People seem to accept you however you are, wherever you are, whatever you have, and you're embraced. It's not a matter of, oh, your car isn't as nice, your house isn't as big. And with the reduced cost of living, and then also the reduction in the need for like having to buy into the material culture that the US kind of tends to breed in people, we've been able to slow down. We've been able to really enjoy our children. My husband's job, even though he has to report into work, is much more flexible. If we need to take the kids to a doctor's appointment, we can do it together. If we need to go see the teacher and have a conversation about, progress reports that they do every quarter, we can go do that together. And he doesn't have to clock in and clock out. It's, just have a conversation, like send an email. Hey, I'm going to be stepping out for an hour and a half to go to my son's, open house. I'll be back. No worries. And for me, for both my husband and myself, we, family is everything, right? Family, and if anything, my experience has taught me, family really is everything. We want to climb the social ladder. We want to climb the career ladder, sure. But when all is said and done, it's the relationships you've created. It's the humans that you've birthed and brought into the world, and the types of humans that they grow up to be. And so our first job is taking care of them. Our first job is being there for them. Our first job is them. And that's our priority. And we've been able to shift our priorities a bit so that now we can really be a part of their development as humans and as individuals that will go out into the world one day and hopefully do good things. So the slowing down has been, major, major blessing to, our family as a whole.
A final question, what would you, word of advice would you give anyone else out there who's thinking of doing the same but not sure where to start? What would be your message of inspiration to that person?
I would definitely encourage them, you know, as I mentioned before, if it's been on your heart for a while, it's on your heart for a reason. There is a ripple effect that comes from any movement and any decision that you make. And it's not just about you, it's about the people that you're going to influence and affect by, you know, the change that you make, whatever that may be, to lean into that fear and to really just embrace it. Everything is scary. Every change is scary. Some of the biggest changes, the most important changes, the ones that change our lives and the people around us the most, are the things we fear the most. And, you know, I believe in, you know, the net will, you know, saying jump and the net will appear, you know, so just really, really digging deep, like what is on your heart? Why is it on your heart? And what could go right? What are the things that could go right in the future if you make this decision? Don't ignore those nudges. Lean into them and really, you know, where is this coming from? Why is this? And what could go right?
I love that. I think so. I think you just sometimes have to just do it if you really, really thinking about something. And I think your own experience has really shown us that it can be done. And I love the way you talked about, you know, do your due diligence, go check the place out, see if you like the place, see if it you know adapts to you as an individual, as a person, and if you're ready to make those sacrifices as well. And Gabrielle, really thank you for your time, for you know taking this wonderful opportunity to just talk to me about this changes you went through and why it was so important for you and your family. I really thank you for your time for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. This was fun and enjoyable.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, thanks.